Welcome to The Guide at Fish North Georgia. Brought to you by these fine sponsors. Spro, working with America's best anglers to design the world's finest fishing tackle. Nichols Lures, handcrafted to perfection. Georgia Blade, makers of premium fishing lures for over 3 decades and home to the Georgia Jig. Crypto Bass, tournament grade, Georgia made. And be sure to visit fishnorthgeorgia.com. Now here's Josh Little.
Hey guys, Joshua Little here with Fish North Georgia, The Guide, and I want to give you a recap from August the 8th up at Lake Chickamauga. This is the first time that I have fished Lake Chickamauga, and I was really looking forward to it, minus the fact that we're almost in the dead middle of summer, it's hot. Outside of that, I was pretty pumped about it. We had 2 options. We could put in at Savannah Bay, or we could put in at Wolf Teever. I chose Wolf Teever because it was a fairly close paddle to the river channel, and that was the area that I wanted to focus on, one of the areas anyways. First thing that morning when we put in, one of the guys that I was with, he landed a fish right at the bridge. So I stayed there for a minute because you could see fish staging at about 15 to 20 foot. And I worked that area with a topwater, I worked it with a underspin, and then also a jig and a shaky head. Caught a small fish on a shaky head, nothing that I could use for the tournament. So I decided, with the number of guys that was pretty close to the bridge area there, I wanted to pull away and just head straight to the island. So I went over to Patton Island, focused on the east side, and it was kind of, as you go underneath or the south side of the island, there's a lot of grass in that area. So I was focusing on that area with the topwater, throwing a shaky head a little bit, but I ended up throwing on a Texas crawl because I felt that that was a little bit easier to get through the grass. And I was working a frog on the top because the grass was so thick. You could hear the brim just popping. It sounds like, honestly, it sounds like the Rice Krispies if you pour milk on it, the little popping noise that you get. And from that, it was telling me there's bait fish in there. That's a good area to stay. So I worked it for about 2 hours. Didn't have any success at all. So I made my way closer to where the river swings over to the island. Managed to catch my first fish at about 10:30, and it was on a weighted wacky rig. This is the Jackal Flick Shake. It's a 5.8 inch. This is a weedless hook and an 1/8 ounce weight. Was throwing it on a medium with like a medium spinning reel. Line, of course, 25-pound braid with an 8-pound fluorocarbon leader. You don't need that heavy of braid. That's just what I keep tied on mine. So with catching that first one, it just kind of told me, okay, this is where you need to focus your time, is looking for areas that are looking for heavy shade. And this one was actually up underneath a tree that was not in the water. It was just overhanging the water, but there was a lot of shade there. So I focused on that type of scenario around the island. As I got closer to where the river actually would swing in and touch the island or get close to the island itself, I wanted to fish that area pretty hard, and I picked it apart. But at the same time, what I was noticing is there was no fish on the graph whatsoever. There was no bait fish, no fish that I could see whatsoever. So what I ended up doing was going further north to the northern part of that island. And there's a couple of big rock structures right there, just big rock boulders in the water, and managed to catch 2 more fish. One was a spot, the other one was a smallmouth. Smallmouth was only about 10.5 inches. It was fairly small, but that was a first for me. And both of them hit the exact same thing, which was the weighted wacky rig, the exact same worm, the Jackal. From there, I moved up and started fishing some ledges. I found fish on the ledges. They were sitting at about 18 feet in those areas. I pulled off, would throw over to range between 22 to 25, and would pull up onto the ledges that came all the way up to about 15 foot in areas. And what I was doing was dragging a jig. I was dragging a shaky head, and then also just slow rolling a Kitex with a fish head underspin. But the biggest problem that I've seen is that a lot of guys were coming in bass boats, and not a problem in a sense of that's a problem with it. What I mean by that is a lot of guys would come in, they would fish that for about 7 to 10 minutes, and then they would leave. So that told me immediately that that area is pretty pressured, and each one of the areas that I had mapped on Navionics, there was a boat sitting there. When I couldn't get any luck in that area, and with the amount of bass boats that were coming in and sitting on each one of those spots, I decided to move back to Patton Island, fished around the remainder of the island, and then went back over to Wolf Teever right there at the boat ramp and fished on the opposite side of the boat ramp. Fished that bank line, managed to catch another spot. Once again, it was just too small to cull or to use. But all of the fish, except for one, came off of a shaky head. Or I'm sorry, all the fish came off of a weighted wacky rig, except for one, and it was a small one, and it came off of the exact same worm. And what I did is I put it on an 1/8 ounce shaky head, flipped it up there, same worm, no difference, just a flick shake. That color, I don't know if you can tell, but it's got bright green and the purple flake in there. But that seemed to be the color that was working for me. Water temp was right about 87 in some areas, 88 in others. Water clarity was about 4 to 5 feet in certain areas. But I'll definitely be back up there because it's one that I want to get out there, work a little bit more, find different areas to fish, and hopefully be a little bit more successful the next time. So, but thank you guys for checking out the guide. Of course, there's going to be some other videos that are posted on the guide that reports on Chickamauga. Check those out because there's some guys that are up there that are really knocking them down, and they could give you some good advice. So thank you guys. We'll catch you next time.
Thanks for watching the guide here at Fish North Georgia. Our mission is to build a community of anglers to give you the best and latest information to make your day on the water more successful. Make sure you subscribe to our channel, click the bell so you'll be notified of any future content. Make sure you check us out at fishnorthgeorgia.com, where we carry a large variety of bait manufacturers from here in the North Georgia area. So we appreciate you being part of our community, and we'll see you soon.